I enjoyed the last one so much, I thought I'd give it another go. This is WWF Superstars from 1991. June 1990. June! That's a UK joke of a certain period. 1991. It's the 1st of June 1991. And I thought, as I said last time I watched, it was going to be a little bit cowed because we just had the WrestleMania, Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter, Iraqi sympathizer angle. A lot of people thought it was a bit of a joke, and that's why I watched the last one from May. But it wasn't. It was really quite febrile and exciting. I mean, not as sort of freewheeling and with a real ethos and push and the crowd willing it to be, really wanting it to be there and coming to join it as it was in 88 and 89, 87, even 86. And then in the Attitude Era, of course. But those kind of times from those late 80s periods, really, I mean, it might have been terrible matches, squash matches, but the crowd brought everybody through that because they loved it so much. Now, it's not quite that way in 1991, but you've still got an enormous amount of people there. And you've got Roddy Piper and Macho King, Randy Savage, or Macho Man. He's not Macho King yet, is he? Is he? No, he is, isn't he? He has been. And yeah, it's not great. Those two together are not great. The gag this week is that the Personal Fitness Expo, which is going to be in 2 weeks' time, Follocks, which is part of the World Bodybuilding Federation and Bodybuilding Lifestyles magazine. Remember that? Remember that that Vince tried that along with the XFL. He had 2 goes at the XFL, and I watched both of those periods. I watched the XFL in both those periods. Yeah, that's how sad I am. But the World Bodybuilding Federation didn't go that far. I think if I remember rightly, Lex Luger was signed up first for that. And then he was brought in as the narcissist, and then the Lex Express. Yeah, the other real American, Lex Luger. And so that's your kind of angle with Piper sort of, well, I didn't get an invitation to that either. I would have liked to have gone. He does that quite well, but it's not great. And actually, this is not as good as the May one either. It's not bad. One thing you do have is, of course, LOD. I remember waiting for because I was around at this time. I remember waiting for ages. Now, I watched WWF all the time, and I didn't watch WCW that much, to be honest. But I was aware of LOD, the Road Warriors, should I say, Hawk and Animal, and I'd seen them a few times and thought, blimey. So when they came, I just thought, well, I think by that time, the Powers of Pain had disbanded and become the Barbarian and the Warlord separately, one with Bobby Heenan and one with Slick. And we'll see both of those today in this programme, doing bits of promos. They don't get to speak. Their managers get to speak. That's it, really. But they must have thought, they must have been looking at the Road Warriors thinking, as soon as they come to the WWF, that's us done, brother. And here the LODR. Oh, what a rush. It doesn't last for long. It's W.D. Jones versus somebody, Bianchi. Kenneth, and it doesn't really matter. Animal attacks, I've got the notes here, you see. Animal attacks Jones. There's a power slam, which is nice from Hawk, actually, quite snug. Bianchi then he falls to the Doomsday Device. It's great, isn't it? And that's it. Oh, what a rush. Yeah, then you got Randy Fox versus Ted DiBiase with Sheri. Sheri was a good fit for Ted, Really was. Did some great work, Sheri, and really never got the plaudits for that. And she blooming well should have, actually. Now, you know that Roddy Piper's been training Virgil. And, he's picture in picture, saying how he's going to... Well, he'll take that $1 million belt, won't he? eventually the $1 million belt. Remember that? Couldn't win one of his own. He was gifted it at WrestleMania 88 when Andre won it, and couldn't get his own. Never won the Intercontinental title, so he thought, well, I might as well. Don't think he did he? No, so he thought, I might as well have a go. He won the tag team titles, of course, with the IRS, Mike Rotundo, who was on the May Superstars as Money Inc. But here, he gets a back elbow in because, I mean, he's a great wrestler. He was a great wrestler, Ted. Really great. And there is a kid who's got a doll, a figure. So, although they're bad-mouthing him and saying how awful he is, fans like him. They like him. There's a power slam from Ted, and then the $1 Million Dream for the finish. It's not surprising. The Rockers then are interviewed. After the Texas Tornado, who makes very short work of the Brooklyn Brawler, Mr. Lombardi himself, Abe Knuckleball Schwartz. He played him as well, didn't he? Anyway, there are slams from the Texas Tornado and a quick discus punch for the pin. That's it. So let's get on to the Rockers. Now, they talk about having a nasty attitude, and of course the Nasty Boys are the tag champs at the moment. So about having a nasty attitude, and Sean says they have a rocky reputation. Now, I don't know whether it was just a comment about them being, their first tenure with the WWF, or they didn't quite get to be champions, and they did get to be champions in 1990 for a very short period, as I said on the last podcast about this period of the WWE, until they said, actually, the top rope was a bit slack, so we're annulling that championship reign. They must have been so cheesed off. Well, Marty Jannetty eventually, more than Shawn Michaels, I'm sure. But anyway, here's Kevin Kruger, and he's facing the Canadian Earthquake. Right? We've got some work for you, Kevin. Fantastic. Who am I facing? Is it Tito Santana? Is it Catch as Catch Can? Is it... No, it's the Canadian Earthquake. Well, I think my last bus has just turned up. Anyway, you get an intro from Jimmy Hart, who's got Jimmy the Mouth of the South, Hart, who's said he's got a huge announcement. I was going to say ego. Well, he has, but a huge announcement to make. So in the ring, you get an Earthquake back elbow. I mean, I love the way that in picture, you see the Earthquake, and he's doing that thing that he does, jumping from one foot to the other. It's a bit weird. It's a bit like a boxer. I've always thought it was strange. And then he gets shots to the back. He sits on him, and it's done very quickly. And then the announcement is, well, my Nasty Boys will always be tag team champs. Why? Because they're going to have to get through this tag team. I thought, and I got my dates wrong, I thought, Tugboat's not turning into Typhoon here, is he? But no. I remember now, it was the period when Andre the Giant came back after a time away, and he did have, it seemed, I think, an injury. And here's how they moulded that injury in. So, it's the period of, well, no one can really manage him. We don't have anybody, everybody's tried. So, I remember this. Yeah, Mr. Fuji, in a sumptuous restaurant, apparently, having his head stuffed into a cake. It didn't look like a sumptuous cake. It looked like just a layer cake. Not great. You've got, who else? Bobby gets his hand stepped on. All of that. He stuffs Slick into the trunk of a car. And then, as Mean Gene says here, you're propositioned. I mean, Sheri asked you if she wants to be, if she could be your manager in a hotel room. And then, of course, I'd forgotten this. You get the shot of him he's spanking her. It's not. I mean, you think, what? It's a bit odd. Because he's so much, I mean, his hands are massive. It's a bit weird. And I'd forgotten that. He turns Jimmy Hart down. Jimmy thinks he's got the deal. And, of course, he's attacked, then by Earthquake. Not Jimmy Hart. Andre. Of course, he wouldn't attack Jimmy Hart, would he? But they do nobody comes to help him. Not Hogan, no one, mind you, of course, they've had some bad blood, haven't they? But no one comes from the back to help him, even though he's this great wrestling scion for the WWF. No one comes to help him. And they mess around with his knee. And they do it for ages, so he gets out of the ring. He does it really well, Andre. Can't stand up, collapses, and then crawls to the locker room. And Vince McMahon says, well, we don't want to see this. Well, we have already seen about 5 minutes of it. So they really show it. I think, if I remember rightly, he had an injury already and was never going to really be able to wrestle again. And this just kind of puts the full stop on it, really. Next we've got Dave Siegfried's versus and John Anderson versus the Orient Express. Now, boing, you get. I did the music last week, didn't I? Kato and Tanaka with Mr. Fuji. You get the gong, and then you get ding 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 ding. It's a bit. It's on the nose. Let's put it that way. It's a little bit Benny Hill, to be honest. I mean, it's not but it's a little bit. Well, these people are Oriental, aren't they? They're called the Orient Express. So let's just do that, shall we? I'm surprised they don't come to the ring with chopsticks, to be honest. Or maybe somebody could play chopsticks. Ding, 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 ding. Somebody's playing chopsticks. That kind of thing, you see. But they are very good in the ring. Doesn't last for long. None of these matches do. Kato gets some chops in. There's a back elbow. There's not chopsticks. No, definitely not. But chops in. Back elbow. Tanaka gets a roundhouse kick. They do the thing where they drape one of the wrestlers. I think it's John Anderson. I'm not quite sure which one it is. I mean, I hope he wasn't doing a concert with Yes the following evening, because he really was hammered around around the mat a lot. He's draped over he's pulled out from the ropes, and then Tanaka does a leapfrog over Kato. It's Paul Diamond, wasn't it, Kato? Kato's back into the small of the opponent's back. And then you get a really good move, actually, which is a Kato kick into a Tanaka suplex. And that is your pin. It's lovely, actually. Really nicely done. Now, Bodybuilding Lifestyles magazine, they've got, I mean, last week we saw someone chatting with us while he worked out. And this week you've got Mike Christian at the pec deck. Because to be a warrior, you've got to train like a warrior. Yeah. And apparently, I mean, Macho will be there at the Bodybuilding Expo, but Piper might not be. That's the gag you've got. That's the gag. And we finish with The Undertaker, because he was becoming a big event here versus It Doesn't Matter. It's like a long cool drink of water, this one. He's quite thin. And really, it's a very high forearm, and then a quick tombstone, which when you see it first, you think, my God, that was brutal. He really hammered his head into the mat. When you see it again close up, it's beautifully done. His head just glances the mat. It is beautifully done from The Undertaker. Well done, Mark Calloway. Really well done. He protected him beautifully. And then I'd forgotten this. They get the body bag out. As Piper says, what must his family be thinking? This unnamed wrestler. Well, I'm sure they'll be cheesed off he's not been named. And that's it, really. You get Warlord and Slick chatting. That's about it. It's not all that good. It's really... But you've got The Undertaker. And you've also, as well as that, I forgot to mention this, you've got the Mountie. Now, that we're going to have... And it's great work from Jacques Rougeau. You're going to have the prison match, aren't you, where he loses to the Boss Man at the upcoming SummerSlam event, which I'm going to have to lead up to that and review that then, aren't I? And the work he does when he's put in prison is superb. But I'd forgotten, because they tie up the Nasty Boys and Jimmy Hart, tie up the Boss Man, they tie him up to the ropes, and then, of course, the Mountie can get the cattle prod out, and I'd forgotten that you get but really superimposed. It's played over the loudspeakers. You can hear that. It's just too loud. I can't believe that big noise came from that cattle prod, but it's a great idea, and they've got some good stuff going on here. And SummerSlam will be great. This wasn't as good, but you know what? It wasn't as bad as I remember it either. Ta-ta.